Ybarra Jr. I'm an artist from Los Angeles, California. Everybody from Los Angeles, give it up. All right. I'm more specifically from a place called Wilmington, California, which is Wilmington. Anybody know Wilmington? It's named after Wilmington, Delaware. The guy that came out from Wilmington, Delaware, his name was Phineas Banning, founded the port of Los Angeles, brought the railroad. Most of the stuff that we buy at the dollar store comes from this port. I think it's like the 5th largest port in the world, the 1st largest port in the Americas, hardcore kind of early Mexican-American barrio in Los Angeles. It's the neighborhood I grew up in. People call it Wilmington, but we call it Wilmas. There's East Side Wilmas, West Side Wilmas, North Side Wilmas, and it's a pretty hardcore little community. Yeah, I have pictures of my mom in the 1970s, like throwing up W's way before Tupac, way before Ice Cube. But it's an interesting place kind of growing up there. There were no arts organizations at all. The arts organization was like, there was the big street art show that happened out in Los Angeles that Jeffrey Dice put together at MoCA. And the street art from Wilmington were all the gang East Side Weemos, West Side Weemos tags that came from our neighborhood from the 1970s. That was kind of what art was in my neighborhood. So luckily enough, I was able to go to art school. And in going to art school, I was exposed to all this great stuff, all this stuff that we know, right? I heard this great docent a few months ago at the Phoenix Museum of Art explain to me like what conceptual art was. And she walked in front of her name was Babette. She was a retiree from, I think, from Brooklyn. And she walked in front of a Sol-LeWitt drawing and said, "This is conceptual art. Conceptual art is art that is made like if you have the recipe and somebody else bakes the cake," right? And I'm like, yeah, this is conceptual art, right? And then we went to another room. "This is installation art." It was a Yayoi Kusama installation. She was like, "But it gives me a headache, so you go in by yourself and come out and tell me if you like it," right? So I got to go to school, and see all this great stuff. And I was in New York City when I first got out of graduate school in 2001 with a friend of mine that was doing a residency at NYU, and he was a fellow and all this stuff. And we went to the office where he was doing for the fellowship, and they told him, he had to go back to Mexico and teach for 2 years. And I was thinking, well, I got this MFA, which doesn't stand for Masters of Fine Arts degree in my book. It stands for motherfucking artist, right? I got this MFA, and nobody's telling me I had to do shit with it. I don't have to do anything with this degree. I could go and just throw it in the trash if I wanted to. So I decided that I would go back to my neighborhood and the neighborhood I grew up in and figure out how to kind of bring art there. So in 2002, all these places along the main boulevard there had like my nose print and my handprint from looking in the window if they had a for rent sign or for lease sign. And we ended up, my wife and I and another friend, renting this space with the intentionality to kind of be our studio. But the kids in the neighborhood, they had different ideas of what we were going to do with that space. And they started knocking on the door like, "Where's that mic? Mario, what are you doing in there?" I'm like, "I'm trying to make art. Get out of here." And they're like, no, let me in. And they came in, and they became, our space, my studio, my wife and I studio became like a kind of de facto art school. It was called Slanguage Studio. And for 10 years, we ran a kind of ad hoc, seat of our pants, hook or crook art space, storefront in the street. And all these kids would come in every day, and we had no money, et cetera, et cetera. And I was lucky because I would have different curators. I had gone to like a graduate school, curators, and different artists come to visit me. And they would be looking at the walls at the young artist's work, and they'd be like, "Mario, is that your drawing?" And I'm like, no, that's this kid from down the street. She writes, her graffiti name is Pearl, and she climbs the highest buildings and stuff. Like, that's her drawing. "Oh, Mario, is that your photograph?" "Oh, no, that's like this other kid, et cetera, et cetera." And they would look at me with a kind of, one with a kind of disdain, and then other with like a real sense of confusion, and ask me like, "Well, what is your work?" And I would have to respond to them, "You're breathing in it. Right? You're breathing in my work. This little 1,200 square foot storefront on the neighborhood's kind of main drag that used to be a bakery is my work." And for 2 years, those first 2 years of the space, that was all I did as artwork. I picked up human shit from the front of the place, right, when that would happen. I'd take out the trash, trade work for logos, for toilet work, for plumbers. All this kind of stuff is what we did. And, talking about this idea of space, and place was that we really did have to have the wherewithal and the gumption and the balls to go find a space and then turn it into a place with everybody else's help. Young people coming out of schools are always kind of asking me this, and I always seem to be like telling them like, well, why don't you go do something for yourself or do something with your community to do stuff? And I try to provide a model for that. So for 10 years, I try to put my money where my mouth is, my heart where my mouth is, everything where my mouth is, and I kind of got to this point. And but what I wanted to kind of share with you guys beyond that sense of being able to create a space for yourselves and create that with different communities is that the other thing it really takes is a sense of urgency. There is a sense of urgency to kind of get into a place and really fight for what you believe in to create that space and create those places. Things could happen. But what I'm going to share with you now is a 6-point kind of troubleshooting pedagogical approach that we've kind of been able to create running a space for 10 years and running workshops and teaching at graduate schools and all this kind of stuff. And it's really simple. And I wanted to kind of give us this as a kind of opening statement into the rest of the seminar this weekend. Because what I found is that not everybody coming to these things are on the same page in relationship to language, right? So I'm going to try to give you these 6 key words, these key vocabulary words to get us into the rest of these next couple of days. All right? So this is Mario Ybarra Jr., 6 points. So what you're going to do is I'm going to take you back to 3rd grade. You're going to take out your sheets of paper. You're going to set your hand down, and you're going to draw that turkey. Remember that turkey from 3rd grade? So if you can, please take out these sheets of paper and just draw it, and we'll go through these 6 points. They're pretty easy. I'll give you a second to do this. All right? If you have big hands like me, just draw one. Okay. Are we almost there? Okay, so I'm going to start. We got the turkey hand, right? It's on the paper. Okay, number 1, slide master, number 1, the word intent. Everybody repeat after me, 1, 2, 3, intent. Intent. It's your mother's birthday, you really love her, and you want to make her a cake. This is your intent, right? Intent. Everybody again, 1, 2, 3? Intent. All right. Number 2, the word content, right? Content. Everybody, 1, 2, 3? All right. Your mother really likes chocolate, strawberries, and whipped cream. This will be the content of that cake. Got it? All right. Number 3, context. Everybody, 1, 2, 3? Context. Awesome. Your sister, Mary, made your mother a cake last year that everybody's going to be talking about when you serve the cake this year, right? Context. Oh, that cake that Mary made Betty was the best cake ever, right? Your cake will be made in context to this other cake. Okay, number 4, production. 1, 2, 3, production? Awesome, production. What are you going to need to produce this cake? Number 1, you're going to need some money because you got to buy the chocolate, strawberries, and whipped cream, right? And your mom likes the organic strawberries, so you got to walk down to the farmer's market, et cetera, right? 2, you're going to need some tools. You know, you're going to need a mixer, you're going to need an oven, you're going to need that special bunt form thing that you buy. You're going to need all these tools, right? And then 3, you're going to need some help because you don't want to crack all those eggs by yourself. And that special moment when you got to flip the cake over, you need to have like 4 hands on that thing, right? So for production, you need these things. You need, 1, you're going to need some money, some budget. 2, you'll need some tools. And 3, you'll need some help. All right, so that's production. Number 5, everybody ready? Distribution. All right, distribution, 1, 2, 3? Awesome. Okay, how are you going to invite people to this party? When I'm talking to my students, I say, are you going to use your niece's Dora the Explorer invites that you saved from last year to send out to everybody? Or are you going to send out Facebook invites? Your Nana's not on Facebook, so how's she going to get that invite, right? So how are you going to get people there, 1? 2, how are you going to serve the cake? Is it going to be on Batman paper plates? Is it going to be on using fine china and silver? How are you going to serve this thing? And then where are you going to serve this thing? Your apartment is a mess, right? 2 people fit in it. Will you be at a park? Will you rent a place? Where will this thing be distributed, all right? So that was number 5, distribution. And then finally, on the palm of your hand, I want you to write the word documentation, okay? Everybody, 1, 2, 3, documentation. Awesome, documentation. Documentation serves 2 purposes. One, it's proof to your sister Mary that your cake was better than hers, right? And then, but who's going to make that Flickr feed with all those photographs? Who's going to actually take the photographs? Who's going to upload that thing to YouTube, and for you artsy people, the Vimeo account, like the HD version of this stuff, right? How is this thing going to be out there? And then, secondly, what documentation does is that it gives you leverage into your next cake, right? Because your aunt sees that you made this awesome cake for your mom and like, oh my God, I can't believe you made this cake. Can you make me one for your niece's birthday party next week, right? So then you get commissioned to make your next cake, and then you go all through all the 6 troubleshooting steps again, all right? So let's go through these 6 steps again, please. Number 1 is what? Intent. Number 2 is what? Content. Number 3 is what? Context. Number 4 is what? Production. Number 5? And 6? All right, these are the 6 troubleshooting steps, an instant vocabulary list to get you the insider position into this amazing conference that we'll have over the next couple days. And the challenge on top of that will be who can keep tally for as many times we hear these words in the next couple of days. That's what you need, a hashtag. All right? All right, everybody, thank you.